I'm not funny. This was the first thought I had when I heard of our Toastmasters humorous speech competition. Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters and guests, I've dreamed about being funny all my life. But when I try it, my attempts at humor almost never work. And even when they do occasionally work, I get so excited, I hurriedly I capitalize on my funny momentum, just with the thought of being considered to be hilarious. What usually happens is it leads to me canceling out any previous humor and leaving people with a lasting impression that I definitely don't understand the phrase, quit while you're ahead. I'm not funny, and this is why I'm here to talk to you today. Now, you may think I'm exaggerating, but I assure you I'm not. When I was just a small boy, my mother came to me and she said, Aaron, I'm concerned, I'm going to take you to the doctor. We went to the doctors ran tests, they cracked my elbows off of desks, they hit me with hammers. Nothing. No funny. If I was a normal kid with a funny bone, this could have been hilarious. As it was, it turned out to be a very painful experience. Now, before you begin to feel sorry for me, I should tell you that my wife thinks I'm hilarious. She is quite impressed by my vocabulary. Well, she's not nearly as impressed by my vocabulary as she is entertained by it. In fact, a few weeks ago, as I was preparing for this speech, I uttered the phrase, plight of my insecurity, to which she so lovingly replied, who the heck uses plight of my insecurity in common everyday speech? She encouraged me to go ahead and purchase the pocket protector to complete the ensemble. Now, with all this mounting evidence of my unfunniness, what could I possibly bring to this humorous speech competition? Well, if nothing else, I want to share with you today the factors that have contributed to this lifelong struggle in my life. I'm not funny, but that doesn't mean that you have to walk down this lonely road as well. The following are a few, we'll call them social syndromes that I suffer from. The first is chronic joke exploitation syndrome. Just because a joke works once doesn't mean it's guaranteed to work again. And yes, I am that guy. Every once in a while I tell a well-timed joke, I get a good laugh, and then I comically salivating, and I search for that next moment to exploit for my personal comedy vendetta, and I say, oh, hey Charlie, that reminds me, you know, the one about the lion, the botanist, and the opera singer. And Charlie says, yeah, Aaron, I laughed at that on Monday. Classic case of CJES. The second syndrome from which I suffer is something known as chronic joke explanation syndrome. Nothing sucks the funny out of the room more than when you tell a joke, you self-laugh at the punchline. You know what I'm talking about, when you kind of chuckle through the punchline. Purple billiard balls, that's hilarious. And then you realize that nobody else shared your enthusiasm or has any clue what you're talking about. Now at this point, you can choose to just walk out of the room, to save face, to cut your losses, to keep your pride. But chronic joke explanation syndrome strikes and causes its victims to try to explain why the joke is funny and why you should be laughing and why I'm not a moron for trying to explain something that shouldn't have needed an explanation. The third syndrome that I suffer from is something known as cyberspace cleverness syndrome. My only salvation through the years in regards to humor has been through dialogue, through email. If you hear my voice, forget it. But if somehow I can make sure our relationship exists solely within the friendly confines of cyberspace, I've been known to get more than my fair share of sincere LOLs. Now, this is not just theory, but studies have shown that those who have corresponded with me first through email and then met me are actually slightly disappointed. I know what you're thinking, Aaron, this is the perfect cover for your unfunniness. You could hide your unfunniness with that, but there is a risk. Recently, just a year ago, I managed to find favor with my now current boss by sending a few well-timed and clever emails. Then he invited me to Texas for a face-to-face interview. Let's just say I felt the need to call him and warn him in advance that I wasn't nearly as clever without the assistance of a backspace key. Cyberspace Cleverness Syndrome, CCS, it's a tough one. Now the last syndrome that I suffer from that I want to share with you today, one that possibly you suffer from as well, is something known as chronic sitcom recall. This illness causes your memory from your favorite sitcoms to be resuscitated or to be prompted by everyday situations. Now, this potentially could be hilarious, but it quickly becomes annoying if nobody else shares in your dreaded illness. I have more than one time been a part of this awkward social scene where my colleagues stand there for 15 minutes while I try to convince them or explain to them how their situation with the mailman reminds me of my favorite episode of Seinfeld. It can be tragic. Well, I hope I've shed some light this morning on just how these syndromes have caused me to remain in the ranks of the unfunny for years. I hope that you can learn something from them because I know that everyone around me is hoping I can.